Hey guys, Meteorologist Chris Tomer here. We're going to talk some mountain weather in the pattern. It's all about this atmospheric river that's setting up. Two different surges, weak to moderate intensity, which will favor the Pacific Northwest, BC, Banff, Montana, and Wyoming. And Wyoming is a special case, which could be a snow bullseye across the Tetons. I'll explain the timeline for that and what I'm thinking. But we're looking at a weak to moderate intensity AR which is an atmospheric river. That is going to initially push the snow levels up quite high, especially into the Pacific Northwest. So that's going to limit some snow unless you're at the very highest of elevations, and then gradually some of those levels will fall. But places like Rainier and, it's just the very highest elevations are going to get the biggest snow out of this. I did write about it today on my blog, christomer.com. Atmospheric river for PNW and BC, Banff, Teton Range, everybody will benefit. So take a look at it if you don't have a chance. I'll just show you what's on here in the latest. I have updates to a lot of forecast graphics that are on my blog. But this is the water vapor satellite. Look at this big low still anchoring the pattern. But it's this low that will be moving in and directing that jet stream, that fire hose, which is going to reach way back towards Hawaii and grab all that moisture and focus it into the Pacific Northwest. That, if I draw the pattern, is looking something like this right now. So what's going to happen is all of this will be moving into here. And that's what's going to be directing the pattern. In fact, let me just show it to you before we get into anything else. It's the forecast radar and satellite. So moving ahead in time, it's mainly just clouds and high pressure for the west. But look at the Pacific Northwest. There's the first storm system moving in. And here we are Thursday at 4:30. A lot of it is rain, like I was saying. High snow levels. But if you're up very high, then you're going to get that. You're going to get snow. Look at the overrunning snow for Banff and interior BC. Here we are by Friday morning. Look at the flow being directed down. You see that northwest flow being directed down into the Tetons? Look at that blue there, that snow. And then it kind of fades. But here comes the next storm system, and it's a big one too. It's large. You can see it. A lot of rain for the Pacific Northwest, but again, snow at the very highest of elevations. And this one's probably where the bulk of the snow is going to hit. Potentially the Tetons. Watch it flow down here as we get into the 5th. There it is. You can see that west-northwest flow hitting the Tetons. It's a spiraling area of low pressure that's directing this along with that jet energy. And here we are by the time we get into the 5th there. Let me take you to that final frame one last time. So there we are. The 5th at 11 p.m. Still seeing some of that snow drag its way across the Tetons. So there is this potential where we get some snow with the first storm in the Tetons, but then a larger dump of snow sometime around the 4th, 5th, or 6th with that second area of low pressure, that second storm system. It's all about the integrated vapor transport. When you're looking at this, you can see that it's basically the jet is like a conveyor belt transporting in this water vapor, all this extra moisture into the Pacific Northwest. That's the atmospheric river. So there's the forecast for the river from this morning. Let me show you the updated forecast here. Based on the latest data, you can see two surges into the Pacific Northwest, one into the 2nd, late on the 1st into the 2nd, another one, 3rd into the 4th, and then a very small sort of kicker on the end there on the 5th and 6th. So what I think is you'll get that push of moisture in the Pacific Northwest into a warm environment, but eventually some of that gets overrun. You get overrun snow into parts of Montana, Banff, and Wyoming. All right, let me show you what the jet's going to look like. This is on the 2nd. You can see the jet stretching way back into the Pacific, pulling that moisture into the Pacific Northwest, but this is even more impressive. This is the jet for the 5th. This is where, again, look at that bend, that west-northwest bend right into Jackson, right into the Tetons. And that's where I think, 4th, 5th, 6th, where we could see the bulk of the moisture orographically driven with overrun moisture into the Tetons. Now, down the road, the southern part of this will break south and we'll get some snow in Colorado, but very late in the period. Very late. In fact, let me show you. Let me just go back to the blog real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Forecast jet, we talked about that. Forecast snow, I'll go into the latest graphics I have here in a second. On here, you'll find some specific forecasts, and notice on here, even my morning thoughts were 4th and the 5th is where the bulk of the snow hits the Tetons. Rainier, looking at probably 3 feet. Forecast rain snow line, Washington State, for example, very high today, max mins 11.3 and 87, but then they fall 6,900 and 9,200 feet on the 2nd, and they kind of stay in that zone all the way through the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So initially, very high snow levels. All right, let me go into the totals here as to what I'm thinking. We'll do this in 2 phases. First phase, you can see most of the precip bending into the Pacific Northwest, BC, Banff, Montana, Wyoming. So in Washington State, again, because of the high snow levels, you'd see snow at almost all those places I have listed, but the snow levels are so high that the numbers are really limited. High on Mount Baker, of course Rainier. But look at the flow. And again, 4, 5, 6 is where I think we pick up the bulk of that snow through the Tetons. Phase 2, 11.6 through 11.9, the whole pattern shifts south. Jet shifts south. There's another 6 for the Tetons, a couple for the Wasatch. And in Colorado, it looks like we could get a low pressure that spins up very late in the period and drops some snowfall. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this update. Always appreciate you tuning in here, and take care.